What if the key to success, happiness, and limitless potential was already inside you? This audiobook reveals the hidden science behind mind mastery, how your thoughts, emotions, and habits shape your reality. Unlock the power within and start creating the life you were meant to live. Introduction. What if I told you that you hold the blueprint to your reality? Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that every single experience in your life, your success, your failures, your relationships, your health, your happiness, was not random, not luck, not fate, but something you had the power to control all along. Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you that your mind is the architect of your reality, that the way you think, the beliefs you hold, and the mental habits you reinforce every single day are either building your dream life or keeping you trapped in mediocrity? Most people live as if their circumstances dictate their potential, as if they are at the mercy of external forces, bad luck, unfair systems, genetics, or past trauma. But the truth is, your external world is just a reflection of your internal world. The thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, the patterns you repeat, they become the foundation of your reality. Science has proven this, history has demonstrated it, and those who have mastered this truth have gone on to reshape the world in unimaginable ways. The question is, will you be one of them? The science behind how your thoughts shape your reality. This is not just philosophy or wishful thinking. It is neuroscience, psychology, and quantum physics working together in ways most people never realize. Your brain is not a fixed entity. It is constantly rewiring itself based on the thoughts you feed it. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means that the way you think literally reshapes the structure of your brain, creating new neural pathways that either empower you or limit you. When you dwell on negative thoughts, self-doubt, fear, past failures, your brain strengthens those neural connections, making negativity your default state. But when you intentionally shift your thoughts toward empowerment, discipline, and possibility, your brain begins to rewire itself for success. This is not magic. This is the biological reality of how your mind creates the life you experience. Your thoughts are not passive. They are active forces shaping your destiny. And here's where it gets even more powerful. The way you think doesn't just change your brain. It changes the way you see and interact with the world. This is known as the reticular activating system, ERAS, a mechanism in your brain that filters information and determines what you notice. When you program your mind for growth, discipline, and mastery, your brain starts highlighting opportunities, solutions, and pathways to success that you previously ignored. This is why two people can experience the same situation. One sees failure, the other sees an opportunity. The difference isn't reality, it's perception. And perception is something you control. Why this book will transform your life. This book is not just about theory. It is about practical, proven strategies that will give you absolute control over your mind, emotions, habits, and actions. You will learn how to reprogram your subconscious mind to eliminate limiting beliefs and unlock your full potential. The secret to unshakable self-discipline and how to master your habits for lifelong success. How to develop emotional intelligence so that nothing, no person, no situation can break your focus or shake your inner peace. The neuroscience of resilience. How to train your brain to thrive under pressure and turn obstacles into fuel for growth. The hidden psychology of high achievers. Why some people seem to attract success effortlessly, while others struggle their entire lives. And most importantly, you will discover that you are not broken, you are not weak, and you are not limited. Everything you need to create the life you want is already within you. You just need to master the operating system of your mind. Are you ready? Because by the time you finish this book, you will never see yourself or the world the same way again. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Understanding the power of the mind. The life you are living right now, every decision you make, every belief you hold, every success or failure you experience, is a direct result of the way your mind has been conditioned to think. Many people assume that life is shaped by external circumstances, by luck, by genetics, by opportunities that either come or don't. But the truth is, the most significant determining factor of your life's trajectory is not something outside of you. It is within you. It is the way your mind perceives, interprets, and responds to the world. Yet, despite its enormous power, most people never take the time to understand how their mind actually works, let alone how to master it. They go through life on autopilot, reacting rather than consciously directing their thoughts and emotions, unaware that they are operating based on old programming rather than intentional choice. The first step to mastering your mind, and in turn, mastering your life, is to understand its mechanisms. Your mind is not a singular entity. It is a complex system operating on multiple levels, influencing you in ways you may not even recognize. To understand the immense power of the mind, we must first break it down into its two primary components: the conscious mind, which is logical and deliberate, and the subconscious mind, which is automatic and deeply ingrained. These two forces are constantly interacting, shaping your emotions, behaviors, and perception of reality. And unless you become aware of how they operate, you will continue to be ruled by patterns that you may not have consciously chosen. But here's the good news. Just as the mind can be programmed, it can also be reprogrammed. That is where real transformation begins. The conscious mind, the thinker and the decision maker. Your conscious mind is the part of you that you are most familiar with. It is the thinking, reasoning, and analytical part of your mind that processes information in real time. Every time you solve a problem, make a decision, engage in critical thinking, or learn something new, you are using your conscious mind. It is the part of you that weighs options when choosing what to eat for lunch, that decides whether or not to take on a new project, that calculates risks, and that engages in inner dialogue. This is where your logical thinking occurs, where you analyze situations, where you deliberate over choices. It is the voice in your head that speaks when you are consciously thinking about something. However, the conscious mind has a limit. It can only focus on a small amount of information at once. Studies in cognitive psychology suggest that the conscious mind can hold roughly 7 pieces of information in active awareness at any given time. This means that while your conscious mind is excellent at deliberate thought and problem solving, it cannot manage the thousands of decisions, emotions, and reactions you experience daily. This is where the subconscious mind takes over. The subconscious mind, the silent commander. If the conscious mind is the thinker, then the subconscious mind is the doer. It operates in the background, running the programs that dictate your daily life. Unlike the conscious mind, which is slow and deliberate, the subconscious mind is fast, automatic, and incredibly powerful. It is responsible for everything that happens below your awareness: your habits, instincts, conditioned responses, and deeply ingrained beliefs. When you drive home without consciously thinking about every turn, that's your subconscious at work. When you react to criticism in a way that feels automatic, that's your subconscious acting, based on past conditioning. When you feel anxious before a big presentation, even though you logically know you are prepared, that's your subconscious mind running an old program of fear. What makes the subconscious mind so powerful is that it does not think or reason. It simply executes. It does not question whether something is good or bad, true or false. It simply accepts whatever has been programmed into it over time, whether through repetition, emotional experiences, or social conditioning. This is why limiting beliefs, such as, "I'm not good enough," "I always fail," or "I don't deserve success," feel so deeply ingrained. They are not rational thoughts. They are subconscious programs that have been reinforced over years, even decades. The subconscious mind stores every experience, every emotion, every thought pattern you have ever had, and it uses this vast database to determine how you react to the world. How the subconscious shapes your reality. Perhaps the most astonishing fact about the subconscious mind is that it controls up to 95% of your daily actions, thoughts, and emotions. This means that most of what you do, feel, and believe is not a result of conscious choice. It is a result of subconscious programming. If you have ever struggled to change a habit, if you have ever felt trapped by self-doubt or fear, if you have ever wondered why you keep repeating the same mistakes despite your best efforts, it is because your subconscious programming is running the show. This is why willpower alone often fails to create lasting change, because the real battle is not in the conscious mind, but in the subconscious. But here is the key insight. Your subconscious mind is programmable. The beliefs, patterns, and habits that are currently running your life are not permanent. They were learned, and anything learned can be unlearned or rewritten. This is why some people, despite facing adversity, rise above their circumstances while others remain stuck in cycles of struggle. It is not intelligence, talent, or luck that separates them. It is the way their minds have been trained to think and respond to challenges. Those who succeed have learned how to rewire their subconscious to work for them rather than against them. Reprogramming the mind for success and fulfillment. If you want to change your life, you must change the way your mind operates. This requires two things: awareness and intention. First, you must become aware of the subconscious patterns that are shaping your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. You must start observing yourself, your automatic reactions, your inner dialogue, your deeply held beliefs, and recognize which patterns are serving you and which are holding you back. This is not easy because the subconscious mind operates beneath awareness, but through reflection, journaling, and mindfulness, you can begin to uncover these hidden programs. Once you have awareness, the next step is reprogramming. This involves replacing old, limiting patterns with new, empowering beliefs and habits. There are several powerful ways to do this: affirmations, visualization, repetition, emotional imprinting, meditation, and cognitive restructuring. These techniques work by imprinting new patterns into the subconscious mind, gradually overriding the old programs that no longer serve you. The more consistently and intentionally you apply these methods, the more you will begin to see transformation, not just in your thoughts, but in your actions, emotions, and ultimately, your reality. Mastering your mind is not about eliminating negative thoughts or suppressing emotions. It is about understanding and directing them. It is about taking full responsibility for the way you think and choosing every day to shape your reality in a way that aligns with your goals, values, and potential. Your mind is the architect of your life, and once you learn how to control it, you will unlock a level of freedom, power, and fulfillment that most people never experience. This is where your journey begins. Chapter 2: The Science of Thought and Perception. The Invisible Force. Controlling your reality. Every moment of your life, your mind is filtering, interpreting, and assigning meaning to everything you see, hear, and experience. It is not the external world that determines how you feel, what you believe, or how you act. It is your perception of it. This perception is not objective reality. Rather, it is shaped by the intricate processes of your brain, the layers of conditioning you have undergone, and the deeply embedded neural pathways formed over years of experience. Most people believe that what they see is the truth, but in reality, the brain does not process the world as it is. It processes the world as you are. The way you think shapes the way you perceive, and the way you perceive determines the way you act. This is why two people can experience the exact same event, but walk away with completely different interpretations of it. One sees opportunity, the other sees failure. One sees growth, the other sees pain. The mind is a meaning-making machine, constantly categorizing, labeling, and drawing conclusions based on past experiences. And unless you understand how this process works, you will be a prisoner to your own unchecked perceptions. Science has shown that human perception is not passive. It is an active construction of reality. Your brain receives an overwhelming amount of information every second, millions of bits of data from your senses. However, your conscious mind can only process a small fraction of it, around 50 to 60 bits per second. This means that your mind must filter out 99.99% of reality, choosing only the information that aligns with your existing beliefs, emotions, and expectations. This filtering process happens without your conscious awareness, but it dictates the way you experience life. If your mind is trained to see obstacles, you will find them everywhere. If your mind is programmed to look for solutions, you will see them even in the midst of chaos. Your perception is your reality, but your perception is also malleable. When you learn to master your thoughts, you gain the ability to reshape the way you see and experience the world around you. The role of neural pathways. Why we think the way we do. The human brain is composed of nearly 86 billion neurons, each capable of forming thousands of connections with other neurons. These connections create intricate networks that govern your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. From the moment you are born, your brain is constantly wiring and rewiring itself based on experience. Every thought you think, every action you take, every emotion you feel strengthens or weakens these neural connections. This is why repeated behaviors become habits, why frequently visited thoughts become beliefs, and why emotional reactions become automatic over time. The brain is like a vast landscape of trails, some well-worn, others barely formed. The thoughts and patterns you engage in the most create neural highways, making it easier and faster for your brain to take those same routes in the future. For example, if you have spent years doubting yourself, your brain has built strong neural pathways reinforcing those doubts. Whenever you face a challenge, your brain automatically takes the familiar route. I can't do this. This is not because it is true, but because it is the easiest neural pathway to activate. On the other hand, if you consistently train your brain to focus on resilience and confidence, over time, those pathways become dominant. This is the foundation of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, rewire, and adapt based on conscious effort. You are not stuck with the way you currently think. You have the power to reshape your mental landscape, to consciously break old pathways and forge new ones. The more you challenge negative thought patterns, the weaker they become. The more you reinforce positive and empowering thoughts, the stronger those connections grow. The power of cognitive bias, how your mind tricks you. The brain does not perceive reality objectively. It filters everything through cognitive biases, mental shortcuts that help you process information quickly, but often distort the truth. One of the most powerful biases is the confirmation bias, which causes you to seek out and interpret information in a way that confirms what you already believe. If you believe the world is full of opportunities, your brain will selectively notice situations that support that belief. If you believe you are unlucky, your brain will actively ignore evidence to the contrary and focus only on the misfortunes you encounter. This bias reinforces your current worldview, making it self-perpetuating. Another powerful bias is the negativity bias, which makes the brain far more sensitive to negative experiences than positive ones. This is an evolutionary trait. Early humans who were hyper-aware of dangers were more likely to survive. However, in the modern world, this bias can become a mental trap, causing you to dwell on failures, fear rejection, and hesitate to take risks even when the actual danger is minimal. Understanding these biases is crucial because they shape the way you see yourself and the world. If you are not aware of them, they will continue to operate in the background, subtly controlling your thoughts, emotions, and decisions. But when you recognize them, you can begin to challenge them. You can start questioning your automatic interpretations, asking yourself, is this really true? Or is this just my mind's habitual response? This small shift in awareness can have profound effects on your life, shifting your mental filters, rewriting your thought patterns. If your thoughts shape your perception, and your perception shapes your reality, then mastering your mind starts with changing the way you think. The first step in this process is awareness, becoming conscious of the automatic thoughts running through your mind every day. Many people are completely unaware of their own inner dialogue, yet this dialogue is dictating the course of their lives. Start paying attention. Notice the way you react to challenges, the words you use when talking to yourself, the beliefs you assume to be true without question. Are they serving you, or are they limiting you? The second step is disrupting old patterns. The brain thrives on repetition, so the only way to change ingrained mental habits is to interrupt them repeatedly. If you catch yourself thinking a negative thought, "I'll never succeed," "I'm not good enough," "This is too hard," pause and challenge it. Ask yourself, is this an absolute truth, or is this just a habit of thought? By consistently questioning and reframing your thoughts, you weaken old neural pathways and start to build new ones. This is the foundation of mental mastery, learning to control the dialogue in your own mind rather than letting it control you. Finally, the most important step is deliberate reprogramming. Just as negative thought patterns can be reinforced, so can positive ones. Every time you replace a self-limiting thought with an empowering one, you are rewiring your brain. This is why affirmations, visualization, and gratitude practices are so powerful. Not because they are magic, but because they work in alignment with how the brain learns. Repetition strengthens neural pathways. The more you consciously focus on confidence, success, and growth, the more your brain rewires itself to expect and create those realities. Mastering your mind, mastering your future. The most profound realization you can have is that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. You have the ability to reshape them, to train your mind, to take control of your own perception. The world is not happening to you. You are shaping the world through your thoughts. When you learn to direct your perception, to question your biases, to rewire your neural pathways, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never experience. This is where true mental mastery begins, not in controlling everything outside of you, but in mastering the inner world that creates your reality. The next chapter will take you even deeper, showing you practical techniques to accelerate this process and begin the journey of lasting transformation. Chapter 3. Breaking free from mental limitations. The invisible chains holding you back. Most people go through life unaware of the mental limitations that quietly shape their decisions, behaviors, and overall potential. These limitations are not physical barriers, nor are they always imposed by society. They exist primarily in the mind. Whether you realize it or not, your mind has been conditioned to operate within a certain range of beliefs, assumptions, and expectations about what is possible for you. These limitations may have been shaped by early experiences, cultural programming, past failures, or the words of others who projected their own doubts onto you. But no matter where they come from, the most important truth is this: they are not real unless you believe them to be. The human brain is incredibly powerful, capable of immense growth, learning, and adaptation. Yet, despite its limitless capacity, the mind often falls into self-imposed traps that hinder progress. You may have found yourself thinking, "I'm not smart enough," "I wasn't born talented," or "people like me don't succeed." These thoughts feel real because they have been repeated so many times that they have become part of your subconscious programming. But they are just thoughts, not absolute truths. The challenge is that once a person accepts these mental barriers as reality, they begin to live within those constraints, never daring to push beyond them. What if you could rewrite those limitations? What if the barriers in your mind were nothing more than illusions that could be dismantled? The first step in breaking free is to recognize that mental limits are learned, not inherent. Nobody is born with a belief that they are inadequate, unworthy, or destined to fail. These ideas are absorbed through experience and reinforced by habit. By understanding the mechanisms that create and sustain mental limitations, you can begin to reprogram your mind to operate beyond them. The origins of mental limitations. How they take root. The mind does not impose limitations on its own. These constraints develop over time through repeated exposure to negative experiences, societal influences, and internalized fears. From childhood, your brain absorbs messages from parents, teachers, peers, and media, gradually forming the beliefs that shape your identity. If you were repeatedly told that you were not good enough, that success was only for a select few, or that failure was something to be feared, those messages may have taken root in your subconscious. Psychologists refer to these deeply ingrained thought patterns as limiting beliefs. They are powerful because they operate at the subconscious level, influencing thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without conscious awareness. These beliefs often manifest in statements like, "I'm too old to change," "I don't have what it takes," or "I'm just not that kind of person." These thoughts are not truths. They are conditioned responses that have been reinforced over time. The problem is that once a limiting belief becomes part of your identity, your mind starts looking for evidence to support it. This is known as confirmation bias. Your brain selectively focuses on information that reinforces existing beliefs while ignoring anything that contradicts them. For example, if you believe you are bad at public speaking, your brain will highlight every nervous moment you have on stage while dismissing any time you spoke well. If you believe you are unworthy of success, your mind will magnify every setback and overlook your achievements. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you expect failure, you subconsciously act in ways that make failure more likely. However, the moment you recognize that these limitations are mental constructs, you begin to take the first step toward breaking free. The power of neuroplasticity, rewiring your brain for freedom. One of the most important discoveries in neuroscience is that the brain is not fixed. It is constantly changing, adapting, and rewiring itself based on experience. This ability, known as neuroplasticity, means that you are not stuck with the beliefs, patterns, and mental limitations you have inherited or developed. Just as the brain can form limiting beliefs, it can also unlearn them and replace them with empowering ones. Neuroplasticity works through repetition. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen the neural connections associated with it. This is why deeply ingrained limiting beliefs feel so real. They have been reinforced through years of repetition. But the same principle applies in reverse. The more you challenge and replace these beliefs with empowering thoughts, the weaker the old patterns become. Over time, new neural pathways form, creating a mental framework that supports growth, confidence, and resilience. For this process to work, you must become deliberate about what you feed your mind. Every thought, every word, every mental image contributes to the structure of your brain. If you consistently expose yourself to ideas of limitation, fear, and doubt, those neural pathways will strengthen. But if you consciously fill your mind with empowering beliefs, knowledge, and success-oriented thinking, you will literally reprogram your brain for greater possibilities. The key is consistency. Repetition is what transforms a new belief into a deeply rooted mindset. Escaping the comfort zone. The key to mental expansion. The most significant way mental limitations manifest is through the comfort zone, a psychological state where everything feels familiar, predictable, and safe. The comfort zone is not inherently bad. It provides a sense of security and stability. However, if you stay within it for too long, it becomes a prison, keeping you from growth, achievement, and new experiences. The comfort zone is where mental limitations thrive because it reinforces existing beliefs and discourages risk-taking. The only way to expand your potential is to deliberately step outside of the comfort zone. This does not mean making reckless decisions or throwing yourself into extreme situations. It means gradually pushing your boundaries and doing things that challenge your existing self-image. Each time you confront a fear, take on a challenge, or try something new, you send a powerful message to your subconscious. I am capable of more. This process may feel uncomfortable at first because the brain is wired to resist change. When you attempt something unfamiliar, your mind activates its fear response, warning you of potential failure, embarrassment, or discomfort. But this fear is often based on old programming rather than actual danger. The more you expose yourself to new challenges, the more your brain adapts, and the more confident you become. Over time, what once seemed impossible becomes second nature, and your comfort zone expands. Shattering mental barriers. The path to true freedom, breaking free from mental limitations, is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of self-awareness, challenge, and growth. It requires actively questioning your beliefs, consciously choosing empowering thoughts, and repeatedly stepping outside of familiar patterns. The journey begins with recognizing that you are not defined by your past conditioning, nor are you bound by the fears and doubts that have held you back. The most successful people in the world are not those who were born without limitations. They are those who refused to accept those limitations as truth. They understand that the mind can be trained, conditioned, and expanded beyond its initial programming. They recognize that every belief, every habit, every pattern of thought is changeable. When you take control of your mind, you take control of your destiny. You have the power to redefine your self-image, rewrite your mental script, and reshape your future. The only question is, are you willing to challenge the limitations that have kept you confined? The answer to that question will determine the course of your life. In the next chapter, we will explore practical techniques to accelerate your mental transformation, ensuring that you not only break free from limitations, but step fully into your greatest potential. Chapter 4. The Power of Self-Talk and Inner Dialogue. The voice inside your head. Friend or foe? Every moment of your life, there is a voice inside your head narrating your experiences, analyzing situations, predicting outcomes, and offering opinions about everything you see, hear, or feel. This inner dialogue is constant. It begins the moment you wake up and continues until you fall asleep, shaping your emotions, decisions, and even the way you perceive yourself. Yet, for most people, this voice operates unchecked and unchallenged, running on autopilot, often reinforcing self-doubt, fear, and negativity without them even realizing it. This inner voice has the power to be your greatest ally or your most destructive enemy. The way you talk to yourself matters more than you may think, because it sets the tone for how you experience the world and how you show up in life. Most people assume that their thoughts are simply reflections of reality, but in truth, thoughts are not facts. They are interpretations. If your inner voice constantly tells you that you are not good enough, that success is out of reach, or that you are destined to struggle, your mind will begin to look for evidence to support those claims. This is where self-fulfilling prophecies take root. When you repeatedly tell yourself that something is impossible, your brain accepts it as truth and adjusts your behavior accordingly. You hesitate to take action, you subconsciously sabotage opportunities, and you find yourself trapped in cycles of frustration and limitation. But the opposite is also true. When your inner dialogue is empowering, supportive, and focused on growth, you begin to approach life with a different energy, confidence, and determination. The most successful individuals in the world have mastered the art of intentional self-talk. They understand that their internal dialogue is not something to be left to chance. It is a tool that can be trained, refined, and directed towards success. Whether you realize it or not, your self-talk is shaping your identity, your decisions, and ultimately, your destiny. The good news is that no matter what patterns you have developed over the years, you have the power to change them. The key is learning how to recognize destructive thought patterns, disrupt them, and replace them with new, empowering mental scripts that serve your highest potential. Recognizing the patterns. The types of negative self-talk. Before you can transform your self-talk, you must first become aware of the patterns that are currently running in your mind. Most negative self-talk falls into specific categories, each with its own distinct way of distorting reality and reinforcing self-doubt. The first and most common type is the inner critic, the harsh, judgmental voice that constantly points out your flaws, mistakes, and perceived inadequacies. This voice tells you that you are not smart enough, talented enough, or deserving enough, often holding you back from taking risks or pursuing your true potential. The inner critic thrives on perfectionism, setting impossible standards and making you feel like nothing you do is ever enough. Another common form of negative self-talk is catastrophizing, where the mind jumps to worst-case scenarios and convinces you that failure or disaster is inevitable. This is the voice that whispers, "If you try this, you'll embarrass yourself," or "If this doesn't work out, your entire future is ruined." Catastrophizing magnifies small challenges into insurmountable obstacles, causing unnecessary anxiety and hesitation. Then there is victim mentality self-talk, which convinces you that life is happening to you rather than for you. This voice says, "I have no control. Nothing ever works out for me," or "It's not my fault. I just have bad luck." This mindset creates a sense of powerlessness, reinforcing the idea that you are at the mercy of external circumstances rather than being in control of your own destiny. Another destructive pattern is comparison-based self-talk, which constantly measures your worth against others, leading to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. This voice says, "They're so much further ahead than I am," or "I'll never be as good as them." This type of thinking erodes self-confidence and creates unnecessary pressure, often making people feel like they are falling behind, when in reality, their journey is unique. Finally, there is self-limiting self-talk, where the mind imposes unnecessary restrictions based on past failures or deeply ingrained beliefs. This voice says, "I'm just not that kind of person. I'm too old to change," or "I don't have what it takes." This kind of thinking becomes a self-imposed prison, keeping people stuck in repetitive cycles rather than allowing them to explore their full potential. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward change. The moment you become aware of the way you speak to yourself, you gain the power to question, challenge, and rewrite your inner dialogue. The key is to shift from automatic negative self-talk to intentional, empowering self-talk, and this begins with the art of reframing. The power of reframing, changing your internal dialogue. Reframing is the process of taking a disempowering thought and consciously shifting it into a new perspective that supports growth, resilience, and confidence. Instead of allowing the mind to operate on old, negative scripts, reframing enables you to rewrite your mental narratives in a way that serves you. This is not about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. Rather, it is about choosing perspectives that empower you rather than hold you back. For example, instead of saying, "I always fail," you can reframe the thought into, "Every setback is a learning opportunity that strengthens me." Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," you can shift to, "I am constantly improving and growing." Instead of saying, "I can't do this," you can replace it with, "I am learning and getting better every day." These small shifts in language have a profound impact on how you feel and act because they shape the beliefs that drive your behavior. One of the most powerful ways to reinforce new self-talk patterns is through affirmations, positive present tense statements that reinforce empowering beliefs. The key to effective affirmations is repetition and emotion. Simply saying the words without feeling them will have little impact, but when you say them with conviction, visualize them as truth, and repeat them consistently, they begin to rewire your subconscious mind. Over time, your internal dialogue shifts from one of limitation to one of confidence, resilience, and possibility. Taking control, becoming the master of your own mind. Transforming your self-talk is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice of awareness, interruption, and redirection. The more consistently you challenge negative thoughts and replace them with empowering ones, the stronger your new mental patterns become. This is how you take control of your mind rather than letting it control you. Your inner dialogue is shaping your reality, but the good news is you are the author of that dialogue. You have the power to rewrite your mental script at any time. Chapter 5. Emotional Mastery. Harnessing the power of your feelings. The hidden force that shapes your life. Emotions are the driving force behind every decision, reaction, and experience in your life. They dictate how you perceive reality, how you respond to challenges, and how you interpret success and failure. Whether you realize it or not, emotions influence everything, from the relationships you build to the opportunities you pursue, and even the limitations you impose upon yourself. Yet, despite their immense power, most people allow their emotions to operate unconsciously and uncontrollably, reacting to them as if they were inevitable rather than something they can influence. The ability to master your emotions is one of the most valuable skills you can develop, because when you control your emotions, you take control of your mind, your actions, and ultimately, your destiny. Many people believe that emotions happen to them, that they are at the mercy of their feelings and have little say in the matter. They think, "I can't help feeling this way," or "This is just who I am." But in reality, emotions are not random occurrences. They are responses to thoughts, interpretations, and conditioning. What you feel is largely dictated by how you think about a situation, rather than the situation itself. This is why two people can experience the exact same event and react completely differently. One sees a challenge as an exciting opportunity, while another sees it as a threat. The key difference lies in how their emotions are processed. The good news is that once you understand how emotions are created, shaped, and controlled, you can learn to master them rather than be controlled by them. Emotional mastery does not mean suppressing feelings or pretending negative emotions don't exist. On the contrary, it means understanding, managing, and using emotions in a way that serves you. It means learning how to channel fear into courage, frustration into determination, sadness into wisdom, and anger into purposeful action. It is about becoming emotionally intelligent, learning to recognize, process, and redirect emotions in a way that strengthens rather than weakens you. This is a skill that separates those who thrive from those who remain stuck in cycles of emotional reactivity. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who feel trapped by life is not what happens to them, but how they manage their emotions in response to what happens. The science of emotion. Understanding your inner world. To master your emotions, you must first understand what they are and how they function. Emotions are not just abstract feelings. They are biochemical reactions triggered by thoughts and experiences. When you experience an emotion, your brain releases specific neurochemicals that affect your physiology, influencing everything from your heart rate to your breathing, muscle tension, and even decision-making ability. For example, when you feel fear, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, preparing you for a fight or flight response. When you feel joy, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, creating a sense of pleasure and well-being. Emotions originate in the limbic system, a part of the brain responsible for processing feelings and memories. However, the way you interpret these emotions happens in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain associated with rational thinking and decision-making. This means that emotions are not just automatic responses. They are shaped by your interpretation and perception of events. If you believe a situation is threatening, your brain will trigger a fear response. If you perceive the same situation as an opportunity, your brain will respond with excitement. This is why emotional mastery begins with controlling your thoughts and interpretations, because your emotions follow your thoughts. Understanding the biological foundation of emotions is crucial because it reveals that emotions are not uncontrollable forces. They are processes that can be influenced and directed. Your emotional state is largely dictated by what you focus on, how you breathe, how you move, and what meaning you assign to events. Once you recognize that emotions are within your control, you gain the power to shift your state at will. Emotional triggers. Identifying what controls. One of the biggest obstacles to emotional mastery is the presence of emotional triggers, specific situations, words, or experiences that automatically provoke strong emotional reactions. Everyone has triggers, though most people are unaware of them. These triggers are formed through past experiences, often tied to unresolved emotions or deep-seated beliefs. For example, if someone was repeatedly criticized as a child, they may develop a sensitivity to criticism, reacting defensively or shutting down whenever they perceive disapproval. If someone experienced rejection, they may develop an unconscious fear of abandonment, causing them to overreact in relationships. The key to mastering emotions is first recognizing what triggers you, and then reframing your response. Instead of reacting instinctively, you must pause, analyze, and choose how you want to respond. This requires self-awareness, paying attention to what sets you off and understanding why. The next time you feel a strong emotional reaction, ask yourself, what triggered this feeling? What belief is attached to it? Is this reaction serving me, or is it a learned pattern? By examining your triggers, you gain power over them rather than allowing them to dictate your behavior. Transforming negative emotions into strength. Negative emotions are often seen as obstacles to be avoided, but in reality, they are some of your greatest teachers, if you learn how to use them. Instead of suppressing or ignoring them, you can harness their energy for growth and transformation. The key is transmutation, taking a negative emotional state and redirecting it into something constructive. For example, fear can be transformed into excitement by shifting your focus from what could go wrong to what could go right. Anger can be channeled into productive action by using it as fuel to push yourself forward rather than lashing out. Sadness can be used as a moment of reflection and wisdom rather than allowing it to turn into despair. The difference between those who crumble under their emotions and those who use them to their advantage is their ability to redirect emotional energy into constructive action. Building emotional resilience, the key to long-term mastery. Emotional mastery is not about eliminating negative emotions. It is about building resilience so that emotions no longer control you. The most resilient people in the world are not those who never experience fear, doubt, or frustration. They are the ones who have learned to navigate these emotions without being controlled by them. Resilience is built through consistent emotional conditioning, training yourself to handle stress, setbacks, and uncertainty without losing control. This involves practicing emotional detachment, the ability to observe emotions without immediately reacting to them. Instead of identifying with an emotion, I am angry, you learn to observe it as a passing state. I am experiencing anger. This subtle shift creates space between you and the emotion, allowing you to choose your response rather than reacting impulsively. Chapter 6. The Art of Mental Resilience, Thriving in the Face of Adversity. The strength of the unbreakable mind life is unpredictable. No matter how carefully you plan, how hard you work, or how much effort you put into creating stability, there will always be unexpected challenges, setbacks, and obstacles that test your strength. Some people collapse under pressure, allowing difficulties to consume them, while others rise above adversity, using it as fuel to propel themselves forward. What separates these two types of people is not luck, intelligence, or external circumstances. It is mental resilience, the ability to endure hardship, recover from failure, and thrive even in the most difficult conditions. Resilience is not something you are born with or without. It is a skill that can be developed, strengthened, and mastered. It is the capacity to remain strong in the face of uncertainty, to maintain control over your emotions even when life feels overwhelming, and to continue pushing forward when every part of you wants to give up. People with strong mental resilience do not avoid pain, struggle, or fear. They embrace these experiences as opportunities to grow. They understand that adversity is not an enemy but a teacher, shaping them into stronger, wiser, and more capable individuals. Throughout history, the greatest minds, leaders, and innovators have all faced unimaginable hardships. Yet, they did not allow those hardships to break them. Instead, they used adversity as a stepping stone to greatness. The key to developing this same level of resilience lies in rewiring your mind to see challenges not as threats, but as catalysts for transformation. To do this, you must learn how to reframe adversity, manage stress effectively, cultivate a mindset of unshakable confidence, and develop the ability to push forward regardless of external circumstances. The psychology of resilience, how your mind responds to hardship. When faced with difficulties, your brain reacts in one of two ways. It either interprets the situation as a threat, leading to stress and anxiety, or it sees the challenge as an opportunity for growth, triggering motivation and focus. This response is largely influenced by your past experiences, conditioning, and mindset. If you have been conditioned to fear failure, rejection, or discomfort, your brain will default to panic mode whenever things go wrong. But if you train yourself to see difficulties as temporary and surmountable, your brain will respond with greater clarity, confidence, and determination. This ability to shift how you perceive hardship is rooted in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, and self-regulation. When you face stress, your amygdala, the brain's emotional center, triggers a fight or flight response, flooding your body with cortisol and adrenaline. This is why stress often leads to overreaction, emotional breakdowns, and impulsive decisions. However, resilient individuals have trained their prefrontal cortex to override these emotional impulses, allowing them to remain calm, focused, and strategic in moments of crisis. This is not about suppressing emotions. It is about managing them in a way that allows you to respond rather than react. The more you strengthen your ability to regulate your emotions under pressure, the more resilient you become. This process begins with self-awareness, recognizing when stress is taking control, pausing before reacting, and consciously choosing how to interpret and respond to the situation. Reframing. Adversity, turning obstacles into opportunities. One of the most powerful techniques for building resilience is cognitive reframing, the ability to change the way you interpret difficult situations. Instead of seeing adversity as something that is happening to you, you must train your mind to see it as something happening for you, an opportunity for growth, learning, and self-improvement. Consider two people who both lose their jobs unexpectedly. One sees it as a catastrophe, believing that they are a failure, that their future is uncertain, and that life is unfair. They spiral into anxiety, self-doubt, and despair. The other person, facing the same situation, reframes it as a new beginning, an opportunity to pivot, learn new skills, and find a career path that is more aligned with their true purpose. They take action, seek opportunities, and ultimately create a better outcome than before. The difference between these two people is not their external circumstances, but the way they interpret those circumstances. Every setback contains a hidden lesson, but most people are too consumed by fear or frustration to see it. Resilience is built by training yourself to ask better questions in difficult moments. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of thinking, "This is the end," tell yourself, "This is a new beginning." These small shifts in thinking can completely transform the way you experience hardship. Emotional regulation, mastering your state under pressure. Resilient individuals do not allow their emotions to dictate their actions. Instead, they manage their emotional state so that they remain in control even when life feels chaotic. This begins with practicing mindfulness and emotional awareness, recognizing when negative emotions are taking over and consciously choosing how to respond. One of the most effective ways to regulate emotions is through breath control. Studies have shown that deep, intentional breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing stress and restoring a sense of calm. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, take a moment to slow your breathing. Inhale deeply for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds. This simple technique immediately lowers cortisol levels, clears your mind, and allows you to think more rationally. Another powerful strategy is visualization, mentally rehearsing success even in the face of difficulty. Elite athletes, military personnel, and high-performance individuals use visualization techniques to train their minds for resilience. Before stepping into a stressful situation, visualize yourself handling it with confidence, calmness, and clarity. The brain does not distinguish between real and imagined experiences, so the more you practice resilience mentally, the more naturally it will manifest in real-life situations. Building mental endurance. The key to long-term strength resilience is not built overnight. It is the result of consistent mental conditioning. Just as physical endurance is developed through repeated training, mental resilience is strengthened through daily habits, routines, and challenges that push you beyond your comfort zone. One of the most effective ways to build mental endurance is through voluntary discomfort, putting yourself in challenging situations regularly so that you become comfortable with adversity. This could be pushing yourself through intense workouts, practicing public speaking despite fear, waking up early, or taking cold showers. The goal is to train your mind to handle discomfort without breaking. The more you expose yourself to controlled adversity, the more resilient you become in the face of unexpected hardship. Chapter 7. The Resilient Mind, Building Emotional Endurance and Mental Strength. The Power of Mental Conditioning. How resilience becomes a way of life. Resilience is not just an ability. It is a way of thinking, a state of being, and a lifelong commitment to mental strength. It is what separates those who crumble under pressure from those who rise in the face of adversity. While resilience often seems like an innate trait possessed by a lucky few, the truth is that it is a skill that can be cultivated through intentional mental conditioning. Just as the body becomes stronger through physical training, the mind becomes tougher through consistent exposure to challenges, strategic emotional regulation, and a mindset that transforms setbacks into stepping stones. But resilience is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that hardships do not exist. It is about learning how to navigate challenges without allowing them to consume you. It is about developing the ability to remain calm under pressure, think clearly in moments of crisis, and move forward even when every fiber of your being wants to stop. Those who have mastered resilience do not avoid discomfort. they embrace it, knowing that it is through struggle that true strength is forged. The journey to resilience begins with understanding how the mind processes adversity. Every challenge you face triggers a psychological response, one that either strengthens or weakens your ability to handle future obstacles. If you allow stress, fear, or self-doubt to take control, your mind begins to associate adversity with failure, creating a cycle of avoidance and insecurity. But if you train yourself to see difficulties as challenges to overcome, rather than threats to your stability, your mind becomes conditioned to thrive in adversity rather than retreat from it. Emotional endurance, training your mind to withstand stress. One of the most critical components of resilience is emotional endurance, the ability to manage emotions under pressure, maintain control in stressful situations, and push through discomfort without allowing it to break you. Most people believe that emotions are automatic and uncontrollable, but in reality, emotions are responses that can be trained, regulated, and reshaped through conscious effort. The first step to mastering emotional endurance is recognizing your triggers, the situations, thoughts, or external factors that cause stress, frustration, or fear. When left unchecked, these emotional triggers can spiral into overwhelming anxiety, leading to impulsive reactions, negative thinking patterns, and self-sabotage. However, resilient individuals develop the ability to pause before reacting, assess the situation rationally, and choose a response that aligns with their long-term goals rather than short-term emotions. One of the most effective techniques for developing emotional endurance is exposure to controlled discomfort. This involves intentionally placing yourself in challenging situations that test your patience, persistence, and self-control. For example, if you struggle with social anxiety, pushing yourself to engage in uncomfortable conversations forces your mind to adapt, reducing fear over time. If you have difficulty handling failure, deliberately attempting tasks where success is uncertain helps desensitize you to setbacks, building resilience in the process. By repeatedly exposing yourself to controlled adversity, your mind learns to handle discomfort with greater ease, ultimately strengthening your emotional endurance. Rewiring the subconscious for strength. How to train your mind for automatic resilience. While conscious effort plays a significant role in developing resilience, the true key to long-term mental strength lies in rewiring your subconscious mind. The subconscious governs more than 90% of your thoughts, beliefs, and automatic responses, meaning that true resilience is not just about thinking resilient thoughts. It is about programming your mind to instinctively respond to adversity with strength, confidence, and clarity. One of the most powerful ways to rewire the subconscious is through repetitive mental conditioning, the process of consistently exposing the mind to thoughts, beliefs, and mental images that reinforce resilience. This can be achieved through affirmations, visualization, and self-dialogue techniques that reshape your internal narrative. If your subconscious is programmed to believe that adversity is unbearable, failure is final, or discomfort is something to avoid, your mind will instinctively react with fear whenever challenges arise. However, if you train your subconscious to associate adversity with growth, learning, and opportunity, resilience becomes your default response. Visualization is an especially effective technique for subconscious programming. By mentally rehearsing yourself handling difficult situations with composure, confidence, and control, you train your brain to respond to real-life challenges in the same way. The brain does not distinguish between imagined experiences and real ones, meaning that the more you visualize resilience, the more naturally it manifests in your actions. Elite athletes, military personnel, and high-performance individuals use this technique to prepare their minds for extreme pressure, allowing them to remain focused and unshaken in high-stress environments. Another essential aspect of subconscious conditioning is the language you use in self-dialogue. Words shape beliefs, and beliefs shape reality. If your inner dialogue consists of statements like, "I can't handle this," I always fail under pressure. Or, this situation is too overwhelming. Your subconscious mind will accept these statements as truth, reinforcing a mindset of weakness and fear. However, by consciously replacing these thoughts with affirmations like, I thrive under pressure, I am in control of my emotions, or every challenge makes me stronger, you rewire your subconscious to respond to adversity with resilience rather than resistance. Developing unshakable focus, training the mind to stay grounded in chaos. Resilience is not just about enduring difficulties. It is about maintaining focus, clarity, and purpose, even in the midst of chaos. Many people struggle with resilience because they allow distractions, emotions, and external pressures to dictate their mindset. They react to situations impulsively, rather than grounding themselves in their long-term goals and values. One of the most effective ways to develop unshakable focus is by implementing mental clarity rituals, daily practices that reinforce mindfulness, emotional stability, and cognitive control. These can include meditation, journaling, controlled breathing, or structured self-reflection exercises that train your mind to remain centered regardless of external circumstances. Meditation, in particular, has been scientifically proven to strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, and emotional regulation. The stronger your prefrontal cortex, the more control you have over your thoughts, emotions, and responses to adversity. Another key aspect of mental focus is learning how to detach from unnecessary stressors. Many people exhaust their mental energy on problems that are beyond their control, leading to burnout, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. Resilient individuals, however, develop the ability to differentiate between what they can control and what they cannot, directing their energy only toward productive, solution-oriented action. This mental discipline allows them to remain focused on progress rather than being consumed by negativity or worry. The path to mastery, making resilience a permanent part of your identity. Resilience is not something you practice occasionally. It is a mindset that becomes embedded in your identity. The goal is not just to develop resilience temporarily, but to train your mind so that resilience becomes your natural response to adversity. This requires consistent conditioning, deliberate mental training, and a commitment to mastering emotional strength, cognitive discipline, and mental clarity. Chapter 8: Mastering the Mind, Advanced Strategies for Unshakable Resilience. The Science of Mental Toughness, Understanding how the brain adapts to adversity. Resilience is often mistaken for a mere personality trait, something you either have or you don't. But modern neuroscience reveals a different truth. Mental toughness is a skill, a learned ability, and a physiological process that strengthens the brain over time. The human mind is designed for adaptation, capable of rewiring itself through deliberate effort and structured conditioning. Just as athletes train their bodies to withstand physical challenges, individuals can train their minds to endure psychological adversity. The key lies in understanding how the brain processes stress, challenge, and emotional discomfort, and using this knowledge to develop an unshakable mental foundation. At the core of resilience lies neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reconfigure its neural pathways based on repeated experiences. When exposed to hardship, the brain either reinforces patterns of avoidance and anxiety or strengthens circuits associated with problem-solving and emotional control. This means that every reaction to adversity, whether it is panic, fear, or determination and calmness, creates a neurological blueprint that influences future responses. Those who cultivate resilience train their minds to interpret difficulty as manageable, ensuring that their default reaction to setbacks is one of strategic action rather than emotional collapse. One of the most significant influences on mental toughness is the prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, rational decision-making, and emotional regulation. Studies show that individuals with high resilience have stronger prefrontal cortex activity, enabling them to maintain composure under stress and override instinctive fear responses. The good news is that this can be developed through deliberate mental training, exposure to controlled adversity, and cognitive exercises designed to strengthen focus and emotional endurance. Anyone can enhance their brain's resilience capacity. Cognitive reframing, turning setbacks into strength-building opportunities. The way we perceive adversity shapes the way we respond to it. When faced with obstacles, most people instinctively default to negative cognitive biases, patterns of thought that exaggerate threats, magnify failure, and reinforce self-doubt. These thought loops are not just psychological. They are deeply embedded in neurological wiring, shaping behavior at an unconscious level. Cognitive reframing is the process of deliberately restructuring these mental patterns, transforming stressors into opportunities for growth rather than sources of distress. One of the most effective reframing techniques is contextualizing adversity. When confronted with failure, instead of viewing it as a defining moment of inadequacy, resilient individuals train themselves to see it as a temporary challenge, a learning experience, or even a necessary step toward mastery. Neuroscientists have found that when individuals reframe negative experiences positively, their brain's stress response diminishes, allowing them to maintain emotional equilibrium. This is because cognitive reframing shifts the brain's focus from threat detection to solution orientation, reducing cortisol levels and increasing resilience in the process. Another crucial aspect of reframing is linguistic self-modification. The language we use when discussing challenges dictates how our brain processes them. For example, rather than saying, "This is too difficult, I can't handle this," a resilient individual would shift to, "This is challenging, but I am capable of finding a way through it." While this may seem like a small shift, it has profound psychological effects. Language is the interface through which the subconscious mind absorbs information, meaning that by modifying internal dialogue, we directly influence our neurological response to adversity. Resilience through emotional detachment, learning to let go of what you can't control. One of the greatest barriers to resilience is the tendency to obsess over uncontrollable factors. Many people expend enormous mental energy on problems they cannot change, leading to unnecessary stress, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. Resilient individuals, however, have mastered the art of emotional detachment, the ability to recognize what is beyond their influence and shift their focus exclusively to what they can control. This mindset does not stem from indifference, but from strategic mental discipline. A powerful exercise in detachment is the circle of control, a technique used in psychological resilience training. It involves dividing challenges into two categories: things within your control and things outside of it. By visually mapping out concerns, individuals gain clarity on where their mental energy should be directed. For example, while external circumstances, such as other people's opinions or economic conditions, may be uncontrollable, responses to those circumstances, mindset, actions, and strategies are always within personal control. This simple shift in perspective allows individuals to reclaim mental clarity, reducing stress and increasing decision-making efficiency. Another fundamental aspect of emotional detachment is developing a mindset of radical acceptance. Rather than resisting reality, resilient individuals practice embracing it as it is. This does not mean passivity or resignation. Instead, it means fully acknowledging challenges without allowing them to dictate emotional well-being. Research in acceptance-based therapy shows that individuals who accept difficult situations rather than resist them experience significantly lower stress levels and greater psychological flexibility. By training the mind to adapt to circumstances rather than fight against them, resilience becomes an intrinsic state rather than a forced effort. The role of discipline in mental resilience: consistency over motivation. One of the greatest myths about resilience is that it is fueled by motivation. While motivation can provide temporary bursts of energy, it is highly unreliable, fluctuating based on mood, circumstances, and emotional states. True resilience is built on discipline, the unwavering commitment to mental strength, regardless of external influences. Those who rely on motivation will falter when faced with prolonged adversity, while those who cultivate discipline remain steadfast no matter the challenge. Discipline in resilience begins with non-negotiable mental habits. Just as athletes adhere to rigorous physical training schedules, mentally resilient individuals follow structured cognitive and emotional conditioning practices. These may include morning mental priming routines, daily self-reflection exercises, emotional regulation drills, and exposure to controlled adversity. Over time, these routines rewire the brain for consistency, making resilience an automatic response rather than a conscious effort. A critical component of resilience discipline is deliberate discomfort training. This involves intentionally engaging in activities that push mental and emotional limits, whether through cold exposure, fasting, high-pressure decision-making exercises, or prolonged focus training. Individuals who embrace deliberate discomfort expand their tolerance for stress, making them more adaptable in real-world adversity. Becoming unbreakable. Integrating mental strength into every aspect of life. Resilience is not just a concept, it is a way of life. To master the mind fully, resilience must be integrated into every aspect of daily existence, from decision-making to relationships, from career choices to personal challenges. Those who embody resilience at their core do not merely endure hardship, they thrive in it, finding strength where others find despair. The final step in mastering resilience is internalizing it as an unconscious identity. This means no longer having to remind oneself to be resilient, but instead responding to adversity with effortless composure and clarity. This level of mastery is achieved through repetition, consistency, and deep cognitive rewiring. Chapter 9. The Power of Focus: Sharpening Your Mind for Peak Performance. Understanding the neuroscience of focus. How attention shapes. Reality focus is more than just a skill. It is the gateway to mastery, the foundation of success, and the primary determinant of how we experience reality. Our attention acts as a filter, selectively amplifying certain stimuli while discarding others. The human brain, processing an estimated 11 million bits of information per second, cannot possibly retain everything it encounters. Instead, it prioritizes whatever the mind deems most important. This means that where you direct your focus determines the quality of your thoughts, emotions, and ultimately, your life. At the core of focus lies the prefrontal cortex, responsible for higher-order thinking, concentration, and self-regulation. Neuroscientific studies reveal that individuals with strong attentional control exhibit greater emotional stability, faster problem-solving abilities, and enhanced productivity. The challenge, however, is that the modern world is designed to hijack attention. With endless notifications, social media feeds engineered for addiction, and a constant influx of distractions, most people exist in a perpetual state of fragmented focus, unable to sustain deep thought, constantly shifting between tasks, and never fully present in the moment. The good news is that focus is trainable. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body, deliberate mental conditioning enhances attentional control. The key is to understand how focus works at a neurological level and implement strategies that reinforce cognitive discipline. Those who master their attention gain an unfair advantage in every area of life, whether in career, relationships, or personal development. Eliminating mental clutter. Decluttering the mind for maximum clarity. One of the primary obstacles to focus is mental clutter, the accumulation of unresolved thoughts, anxieties, and distractions that cloud cognitive space. Just as a cluttered desk makes it difficult to work efficiently. A cluttered mind disrupts mental clarity, leading to scattered attention, decreased productivity, and chronic stress. The first step to sharpening focus is systematically eliminating unnecessary cognitive noise, creating a mental environment that fosters deep concentration. A powerful technique for decluttering the mind is the cognitive purge, a structured exercise that involves offloading mental distractions onto paper. This process is simple, yet profoundly effective. Spend 10 minutes writing down every thought occupying mental space, no matter how insignificant or trivial. This exercise forces the brain to externalize concerns, providing a psychological release that reduces cognitive overload. Neuroscientists have found that journaling activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, improving self-awareness and emotional regulation, while freeing up cognitive resources for focused thinking. Another essential strategy for mental decluttering is the art of single tasking. Contrary to popular belief, multitasking does not enhance efficiency. It destroys focus, reduces cognitive performance, and increases mental fatigue. The human brain is not wired to process multiple complex tasks simultaneously. Instead, it engages in task switching, rapidly shifting attention between different stimuli. Each switch comes at a cognitive cost, draining mental energy and impairing performance. The solution is to embrace deep work, a state of total immersion in a single task, free from interruptions. This practice, championed by peak performers, allows individuals to enter flow states where productivity and creativity reach their highest levels. Training the mind for laser-like focus. Techniques for strengthening attention. Developing razor-sharp focus requires deliberate training, much like strengthening a muscle. One of the most effective methods for enhancing concentration is mindful attention training, a practice that conditions the brain to sustain focus for extended periods. Research in cognitive neuroscience has shown that individuals who engage in daily focused attention exercises exhibit significant improvements in working memory, problem-solving skills, and mental resilience. One foundational exercise is focused breathing, where individuals concentrate exclusively on their breath, resisting distractions. This seemingly simple practice rewires the brain's attentional circuits, increasing gray matter density in the anterior cingulate cortex, the region responsible for sustained focus. Another powerful technique is visual fixation training, which involves staring at a single point, such as a candle flame or object, for several minutes without allowing the mind to wander. Studies reveal that this practice enhances attentional endurance, improving the brain's ability to maintain focus over long durations. For those seeking an advanced level of focus mastery, controlled sensory deprivation can be a game changer. This method, used by elite performers, involves eliminating all external distractions and immersing the mind in absolute stillness. Whether through noise-canceling environments, blindfolded meditation, or flotation tanks, sensory deprivation forces the brain to amplify internal concentration, leading to profound mental clarity and heightened cognitive function. The power of selective attention, controlling what enters your mental space. In a world overflowing with information, the ability to selectively filter what deserves attention is crucial. Most people passively consume whatever content appears before them, unaware that this habit dilutes focus and fragments cognitive capacity. Those who master selective attention, however, actively curate their mental inputs, ensuring that only valuable growth-oriented information occupies their consciousness. A powerful principle in selective focus is information fasting, the deliberate restriction of low-value content. In the same way that dietary fasting cleanses the body, information fasting detoxifies the mind, eliminating mental junk that drains focus. This practice involves setting strict boundaries on social media consumption, news exposure, and digital distractions, replacing them with high-quality, knowledge-rich inputs. The result is a sharpened mind, increased intellectual depth, and greater cognitive efficiency. Another key component of selective attention is controlling environmental stimuli. The human brain is highly reactive to surroundings. A chaotic environment breeds chaotic thoughts, while an organized, distraction-free space fosters clarity. Studies in cognitive ergonomics have demonstrated that individuals who optimize their workspaces for minimal distraction experience significantly higher levels of concentration and mental performance. Simple adjustments, such as reducing visual clutter, implementing structured workflows, and creating designated focus zones, can drastically improve attentional endurance. Integrating focus mastery into everyday life, making mental clarity a permanent state. Integrating focus mastery into everyday life, making mental clarity a permanent state. The final step in mastering focus is transforming it from an occasional effort into an effortless way of being. This requires internalizing attentional discipline as a fundamental identity trait, ensuring that sharp focus becomes second nature rather than a conscious struggle. The key is consistency, establishing daily rituals that reinforce mental clarity until they become ingrained habits. One of the most effective ways to sustain long-term focus mastery is habit stacking, where focus-enhancing behaviors are seamlessly integrated into existing routines. For example, pairing morning meditation with a structured planning session, or coupling deep work sessions with movement-based breaks, creates a reinforcing loop that conditions the mind for sustained attention. Over time, these micro-adjustments accumulate, rewiring the brain for permanent focus optimization. The final step in mastering focus is transforming it from an occasional effort into an effortless way of being. This requires internalizing attentional discipline as a fundamental identity trait, ensuring that sharp focus becomes second nature rather than a conscious struggle. The key is consistency, establishing daily rituals that reinforce mental clarity until they become ingrained habits. As we move forward, the journey toward mental mastery continues. In the next chapter, we will explore the art of emotional intelligence, how to harness emotional control as a superpower, ensuring that focus, resilience, and mental clarity are complemented by deep self-awareness and interpersonal mastery. The ability to control emotions, interpret social dynamics, and cultivate emotional resilience is the final frontier in the path to ultimate self-mastery, a journey that will elevate not only personal success, but the depth of every human connection. Chapter 10. The Art of Emotional Intelligence, Mastering the Power of Your Emotions. Understanding emotional intelligence, the key to mental and social mastery. Emotions govern nearly every aspect of human life. They shape decisions, influence relationships, determine motivation levels, and impact overall well-being. Yet, despite their overwhelming power, many people lack control over their emotions, allowing feelings to dictate their actions, rather than mastering the ability to navigate them strategically. This is where emotional intelligence, EQ, becomes the defining factor between those who react impulsively to life's challenges and those who respond with clarity, purpose, and control. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, interpret, regulate, and effectively use emotions, both in oneself and in others. Unlike raw intelligence, IQ, which is largely static, EQ is highly trainable, meaning that with deliberate effort, anyone can cultivate emotional mastery and use it as a superpower in all aspects of life. Studies in psychology and neuroscience have repeatedly shown that individuals with high EQ outperform their peers in leadership, personal relationships, career success, and overall life satisfaction, proving that emotional intelligence is not just an asset, but a necessity for those who seek self-mastery. At the core of emotional intelligence lies self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and social skills. Mastering these components allows individuals to navigate conflicts, make sound decisions, build strong relationships, and maintain emotional balance, even in the face of adversity. The process of emotional mastery begins with understanding the nature of emotions, decoding their underlying messages, and learning to channel them toward constructive outcomes rather than destructive reactions. Decoding the language of emotions. What your feelings are trying to tell you. Every emotion serves a purpose, acting as a signal from the subconscious mind to guide behavior. However, most people either ignore, suppress, or overreact to their emotions, failing to decipher their deeper meaning. To master emotional intelligence, one must develop the skill of emotional literacy, the ability to recognize emotions as data rather than obstacles. Fear, for example, is often viewed as an enemy to be eliminated, yet it is one of the most powerful tools for self-preservation and growth. Fear signals potential threats, but also highlights areas of opportunity. When properly understood, fear can be transformed into courageous action rather than avoidance. Similarly, anger is frequently mismanaged, leading to destructive outbursts or internalized resentment. When in reality, anger is a message indicating a perceived violation, injustice, or need for change. Those who learn to channel anger effectively use it as a catalyst for assertiveness, boundary setting, and necessary transformation. Even emotions that seem undesirable, such as sadness, frustration, or anxiety, serve important psychological functions. Sadness prompts introspection and realignment with one's values. Frustration signals that growth is occurring and new solutions are needed. Anxiety, when properly managed, can heighten focus, preparation, and adaptability. The key to emotional intelligence is not eliminating emotions, but mastering them, learning to decode their messages, regulate their intensity, and use them to one's advantage. The power of self-regulation. Controlling emotions. Instead of being controlled by them, one of the most critical aspects of emotional intelligence is self-regulation, the ability to manage emotional responses, rather than allowing emotions to dictate actions. Many individuals struggle with impulse control, reacting instinctively to stress, criticism, or frustration, rather than responding with clarity and composure. True emotional mastery comes from the ability to pause, analyze, and choose the most effective response rather than defaulting to instinctive reactions. A powerful technique for self-regulation is emotional distancing, the practice of observing emotions from a detached perspective rather than being consumed by them. This involves stepping back mentally, analyzing the emotion as an outsider, and assessing whether the immediate response is the most beneficial course of action. Studies show that individuals who practice emotional distancing experience reduced stress, enhanced decision-making, and greater resilience in high-pressure situations. Another essential self-regulation method is the power of reframing, the ability to reinterpret a situation from a different perspective to neutralize emotional volatility. For example, rather than viewing failure as a personal shortcoming, individuals with high EQ reframe it as a learning opportunity, ensuring that setbacks fuel progress rather than self-doubt. By consciously shifting mental narratives, emotional intensity decreases, allowing for greater objectivity and control. Empathy and social intelligence, mastering emotional awareness in others. While self-awareness and self-regulation are foundational to emotional intelligence, true mastery extends beyond personal emotions to understanding and influencing the emotions of others. Social intelligence, the ability to perceive, interpret, and respond to the emotions of those around us, is a defining trait of great leaders, negotiators, and communicators. Empathy, often mistaken for emotional absorption, is the ability to intellectually and emotionally understand another person's perspective without being overwhelmed by it. This skill is essential in building strong relationships, navigating conflicts, and fostering trust. Neuroscientific studies reveal that individuals with high empathy exhibit greater activation in the brain's mirror neuron system, which enhances emotional attunement and social awareness. One of the most effective ways to cultivate empathy is through active listening, the practice of fully engaging in conversations without internal distraction or premature judgment. Most people listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand, leading to misinterpretations, misunderstandings, and emotional disconnection. Active listening involves attuning to verbal and nonverbal cues, maintaining presence, and responding thoughtfully rather than reactively. By mastering this skill, individuals can significantly enhance their ability to influence, persuade, and connect with others. Another powerful social intelligence strategy is emotional mirroring, a technique where one subtly reflects another person's emotions through tone, body language, or phrasing. This creates a subconscious sense of rapport and trust, making conversations smoother and more impactful. When combined with genuine empathy, emotional mirroring becomes a transformative tool for leadership, negotiation, and interpersonal mastery. Integrating emotional intelligence into everyday life. Becoming emotionally unshakable. Emotional intelligence is not merely a theoretical concept. It must become a daily practice, integrated into every aspect of life. This requires consistent emotional awareness, deliberate self-regulation, and conscious application of emotional mastery techniques in real-world scenarios. One effective way to maintain emotional intelligence is the habit of daily emotional reflection. Taking just 5 minutes at the end of each day to review emotional responses, assess reactions, and identify areas for improvement creates self-awareness and continuous growth. Another essential practice is preemptive emotional conditioning, where individuals mentally rehearse potential challenges and prepare their responses in advance. This ensures that when faced with adversity, emotional reactions are controlled and strategic rather than impulsive. As we continue this journey toward self-mastery, the next chapter will explore the ultimate fusion of mind and body, how physiological well-being directly influences emotional and cognitive performance. Emotional intelligence, when combined with optimal physical health and energy management, creates the foundation for peak performance, resilience, and an unstoppable mindset. Chapter 11. The Mind-Body Connection. Optimizing Physical Well-Being for Mental Mastery. The hidden link between physical health and cognitive performance. For centuries, philosophers and scientists alike have debated the nature of the connection between the body and the mind. In the past, the two were often seen as separate entities. Physical health was treated as a medical issue, while mental and emotional strength were considered matters of psychology or willpower. However, modern neuroscience and physiology have shattered this outdated perspective, revealing that the state of the body directly impacts the state of the mind. The truth is inescapable. If your body is not functioning at its peak, neither will your mind. Every thought, emotion, and decision you make is the result of biochemical and neurological processes occurring within your body. Your brain, despite its extraordinary complexity, is still an organ that requires oxygen, nutrients, sleep, and hormonal balance to function optimally. When physical health deteriorates, whether due to poor nutrition, lack of movement, inadequate sleep, or chronic stress, mental performance suffers. Brain fog, lack of focus, emotional instability, and decreased problem-solving abilities are not just signs of mental fatigue. They are clear indicators that the body systems are not providing the brain with what it needs to thrive. Studies have shown that individuals who prioritize their physical well-being exhibit sharper cognitive abilities, stronger emotional resilience, and greater levels of motivation and productivity. This is not coincidence. It is the result of an optimized internal environment where the brain operates under ideal conditions. The key to unlocking peak mental performance lies not only in mental exercises, but also in mastering the foundational elements of physical health: movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress management. Movement as a cognitive enhancer. How exercise fuels the brain. One of the most powerful, yet often overlooked, tools for enhancing mental performance is physical movement. The brain was never designed to function in a sedentary body. Evolutionarily, humans thrived as active beings, hunting, gathering, building, and constantly engaging with their environment. The modern lifestyle, however, has reduced movement to an afterthought, confining people to chairs, screens, and passive activities. This physical stagnation has catastrophic effects on cognitive function. Exercise is not just for building muscle or maintaining a healthy weight. It is a catalyst for mental sharpness, emotional stability, and enhanced neuroplasticity. When you engage in physical activity, blood flow to the brain increases, delivering oxygen and nutrients essential for neurotransmitter production. This process triggers the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a powerful protein that stimulates neuron growth, enhances memory, and strengthens cognitive resilience. Research has shown that individuals who exercise regularly have higher IQ scores, stronger problem-solving abilities, and reduced risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Different forms of exercise offer unique cognitive benefits. Cardiovascular training, such as running or swimming, enhances memory and learning by increasing hippocampal volume, the part of the brain responsible for storing and processing information. Strength training improves focus and self-discipline by regulating stress hormones like cortisol, keeping the mind in a state of controlled energy rather than exhaustion. Even low-intensity activities like yoga and stretching have profound effects on mental clarity by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing anxiety, and enhancing overall cognitive efficiency. For those seeking peak mental performance, movement is non-negotiable. The body and brain operate in harmony, and a physically stagnant life leads to a mentally stagnant mind. Incorporating daily movement, whether through structured workouts, walking breaks, or dynamic stretching, creates a biological environment that supports high-level thinking, creativity, and emotional balance. Fueling the brain, nutrition as the foundation of mental clarity. The phrase, "you are what you eat," is more accurate than most people realize, especially when it comes to brain function. Every cell in the brain is built from the nutrients you consume, meaning that the quality of your diet directly influences cognitive ability, emotional regulation, and decision-making. Unfortunately, the modern diet, high in processed foods, sugars, and artificial additives, has led to a crisis of brain dysfunction, with rising cases of depression, anxiety, brain fog, and attention disorders. Optimizing brain performance requires fueling the body with nutrient-dense, high-quality foods that enhance neurotransmitter function and support cognitive energy. One of the most critical aspects of brain nutrition is maintaining stable blood sugar levels. Sudden spikes and crashes in blood glucose, often caused by excessive sugar and refined carbohydrates, lead to mood swings, mental fatigue, and decreased concentration. To sustain peak mental performance, a diet rich in healthy fats, lean proteins, fiber, and micronutrients is essential. Some of the most powerful brain-boosting foods include omega-3 fatty acids found in salmon walnuts and flax seeds, which improve cognitive flexibility and memory. Antioxidant-rich berries that combat oxidative stress and prevent mental decline. Dark leafy greens like spinach and kale, packed with vitamins that enhance neurotransmitter production. Turmeric and ginger, which reduce inflammation and support long-term brain health. Hydration is also a key component of mental clarity. The brain is composed of nearly 75% water, and even mild dehydration can cause headaches, fatigue, and impaired cognitive function. Those who wish to operate at their highest level must prioritize hydration as seriously as they do nutrition, ensuring that their brain remains in an optimal state for clear thinking, memory retention, and emotional balance. Sleep as the ultimate cognitive reset. Few things have a more profound impact on mental performance than the quality of sleep. Sleep is not just rest. It is a biological necessity for brain function, memory consolidation, and emotional regulation. Yet, in modern society, sleep deprivation has become a badge of honor, with many sacrificing rest in the pursuit of productivity, unaware that cognitive efficiency plummets when the brain is deprived of its recovery cycle. During deep sleep, the brain undergoes a powerful detoxification process, removing harmful waste products and strengthening neural connections. Sleep is also the time when long-term memories are encoded and problem-solving abilities are enhanced. Research has shown that individuals who prioritize high-quality sleep experience faster learning speeds, increased creativity, and greater emotional stability. To optimize sleep, it is essential to establish a consistent sleep schedule, eliminate blue light exposure before bed, and create a sleep environment free of noise and distractions. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a non-negotiable pillar of mental and emotional mastery. Unifying mind and body, the path to peak performance. The pursuit of self-mastery is incomplete without the integration of physical well-being into mental optimization. A well-trained mind in a neglected body is a foundation built on instability. True mastery requires harmonizing physical health with mental clarity, ensuring that both operate at their highest levels. Chapter 12. The Power of Discipline and Habit Formation, Mastering the Art of Consistency. The Myth of Motivation and the Reality of Discipline. One of the most common misconceptions about success, whether in personal growth, business, health, or relationships, is that it is fueled by motivation. People often assume that those who achieve greatness do so because they are constantly inspired, driven by an unending fire of enthusiasm. The truth, however, is far less romantic. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes, rising with excitement and falling with exhaustion, distraction, or self-doubt. The real secret behind sustained success is not motivation, but discipline. The ability to take action regardless of how one feels in the moment. Consider the stories of elite athletes, world-class musicians, or highly successful entrepreneurs. They do not wake up every day feeling energized, eager to push forward, and excited about their work. Instead, they have developed an internal system of discipline that overrides their emotional fluctuations. They train when they are tired. They practice when they are uninspired. They work when they feel like quitting. This ability to act independently of emotions is what separates those who consistently achieve from those who only dream of success. To build true mastery over life, one must reframe how they view discipline. It is not punishment. It is not deprivation. It is not a rigid, joyless routine imposed by force. Discipline is a form of self-respect, a commitment to personal excellence, and a long-term investment in a future self that is stronger, wiser, and more capable. To develop this level of self-control, one must first understand how habits work, because discipline, when structured correctly, does not rely on willpower alone. Instead, it becomes an automatic process, ingrained into daily life until effort is no longer required to maintain it. The science of habit formation, how your brain automates success. At the core of discipline lies habit formation, the biological and psychological mechanism by which behaviors become second nature. Every action we take is the result of neurological pathways in the brain, which grow stronger the more they are reinforced. In simple terms, habits are the brain's way of conserving energy. By automating repetitive actions, the brain frees itself from the burden of constant decision-making. This is why bad habits can feel impossible to break and good habits difficult to establish. Our brains prefer familiarity over effort, efficiency over change. The key to mastering habits is understanding the habit loop, a concept introduced by behavioral scientists that explains how behaviors are formed and sustained. Every habit consists of three essential components. 1. Cue, a trigger that initiates the behavior. This could be a time of day, an emotional state, a location, or even an external event. 2. Routine, the action itself, whether positive, exercising, reading, meditating, or negative, procrastinating, overeating, scrolling endlessly on social media. 3. Reward, the outcome that reinforces the habit, whether it is a chemical reward, dopamine release, or a psychological reward, stress relief, pleasure, or a sense of accomplishment. By recognizing this pattern, one can engineer positive habits and eliminate destructive ones by altering cues, adjusting routines, and redefining rewards. Most people fail at habit change because they rely on motivation instead of strategically designing their environment and routines to make success effortless. The best way to enforce discipline is to make good habits automatic and unavoidable while making bad habits difficult and inconvenient. Creating a system of self-discipline, practical strategies for lasting change. To truly integrate discipline into daily life, one must move beyond vague intentions and implement a structured system that reinforces positive behavior consistently. This requires a multifaceted approach, combining environmental design, mindset shifts, and strategic habit stacking to ensure long-term sustainability. 1. Reduce friction for good habits and increase it for bad ones. Every habit requires a certain level of effort. The easier it is to perform a behavior, the more likely it is to be repeated. If an action is difficult or inconvenient, the brain will resist it. For example, if someone wants to read more books, they should place them in visible locations, such as their bedside table or work desk. If they want to exercise more, they should lay out their workout clothes the night before. Conversely, if they want to reduce social media use, they should delete distracting apps from their phone or place their device in another room during focused work sessions. By manipulating the level of effort required for certain behaviors, discipline becomes a function of environment rather than willpower. 2. Use habit stacking to reinforce consistency. One of the most effective ways to create new habits is through habit stacking, attaching a desired habit to an existing one. Since the brain already follows established routines, linking a new behavior to an old one makes it easier to integrate. For example, if someone wants to practice gratitude daily, they can attach it to their morning coffee routine. After I take my first sip of coffee, I will write down 3 things I'm grateful for. If they want to develop a meditation habit, they can attach it to their bedtime ritual. After I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 5 minutes. By anchoring new habits to familiar cues, they become part of the brain's automatic programming, eliminating the need for conscious effort. 3-point set clear. Measurable goals with built-in accountability. A major reason why people struggle with discipline is the lack of clear objectives. Vague intentions like, I want to be more productive or I want to be healthier, provide no structure or measurement, leading to inconsistent execution. Instead, goals should be specific, measurable, and time-bound. I will write 500 words every day at 7 a.m. Or, I will do strength training for 30 minutes, 4 times a week. Furthermore, accountability mechanisms, such as tracking progress in a journal, using apps, or involving a partner, create external reinforcement, increasing the likelihood of habit sustainability. 4. Master the art of delayed gratification. One of the greatest obstacles to discipline is the human tendency toward instant gratification, the preference for immediate pleasure over long-term reward. Many self-destructive habits, from unhealthy eating to procrastination, stem from this impulse. The ability to delay gratification, the skill of choosing long-term rewards over short-term pleasure, is one of the greatest predictors of success. Studies on willpower, such as the famous marshmallow experiment, have shown that those who can resist immediate temptations in favor of future benefits achieve greater levels of success in all areas of life. Developing this skill requires conscious practice, training oneself to pause before acting impulsively, focusing on future benefits, and using mental reframing techniques to make long-term goals feel more immediate and rewarding. The discipline mindset, making consistency a core identity. True discipline is not about forcing oneself to work harder. It is about becoming the kind of person who naturally takes action. The goal is to shift identity from someone who tries to be disciplined to someone who is disciplined by nature. This transformation occurs through repetition. Every time a disciplined action is performed, it strengthens the belief that one is a person of integrity, consistency, and resilience. Discipline is the bridge between goals and reality, between potential and achievement. It is not about perfection, but about relentless consistency, even in the face of failure. Those who master this art do not rely on fleeting bursts of motivation. They create an internal structure that makes success inevitable. Chapter 13, The Art of Resilience, Turning Setbacks into Strength, the Nature of Adversity. Why struggle is inevitable. Life is unpredictable. No matter how well we plan, how diligently we prepare, or how disciplined we become, we will inevitably encounter obstacles, failures, and moments of profound disappointment. This is not a sign of weakness, nor is it an indication that we are on the wrong path. It is simply the nature of existence. Every person, no matter how successful, has faced hardship. The difference between those who rise and those who fall is not the presence or absence of struggle, but how they respond to it. Many people believe that resilience is something one is either born with or without, as if it were a fixed trait rather than a skill that can be developed. But research in psychology and neuroscience has shown that resilience is not an innate characteristic. It is a learned ability, one that can be strengthened through practice. Just like a muscle, the way we think about adversity determines whether we become stronger from it or whether we allow it to break us. When we shift our mindset from seeing setbacks as threats to seeing them as challenges, we unlock the ability to transform pain into power. The human brain is wired to resist difficulty. When we encounter an obstacle, our instinctive response is often to retreat, to find a way around the struggle rather than through it. This is a survival mechanism. Our ancestors needed to avoid unnecessary risk to stay alive. But in the modern world, where survival is not our primary concern, this tendency to avoid discomfort can become our greatest limitation. If we only pursue goals when circumstances are favorable, we will never achieve mastery. True success belongs to those who persist despite difficulty, who embrace failure as part of the process rather than as a signal to quit. The key to resilience is not avoiding hardship, but developing the capacity to endure it without losing momentum. Reframing failure, the mindset shift that changes everything. One of the greatest barriers to resilience is our cultural conditioning around failure. From an early age, we are taught that failure is something to be avoided at all costs, a mark of incompetence or inadequacy. In school, mistakes lead to lower grades. In the workplace, errors can result in lost opportunities. Over time, we develop a deep fear of failure, associating it with shame and rejection rather than with learning and growth. But the truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. It is an essential part of it. Every successful person, from entrepreneurs to athletes to artists, has failed more times than they can count. What sets them apart is not the absence of failure, but their ability to extract lessons from it and move forward stronger than before. To cultivate resilience, we must change the way we interpret failure. Instead of seeing it as a dead end, we must begin to see it as a stepping stone, a necessary part of progress, rather than a reason to stop trying. This requires shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, a concept developed by psychologist Carol Dweck. In a fixed mindset, people believe that their abilities are static. If they fail, it means they are not good enough. In a growth mindset, however, people understand that their abilities are constantly evolving. Failure is not an indicator of inadequacy, but a temporary challenge that can be overcome through effort and adaptation. For example, consider two individuals who experience a career setback. The first person, operating from a fixed mindset, sees this as proof that they are not talented enough, leading them to lose confidence and give up. The second person, with a growth mindset, sees this as feedback, a sign that they need to improve certain skills or strategies. They analyze what went wrong, make adjustments, and try again with greater knowledge and experience. Over time, this second person will inevitably surpass the first, not because they are inherently smarter or more gifted, but because they refuse to let failure define them. Reframing failure requires conscious effort. The next time you experience a setback, instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of thinking, "I failed," think, "I am in the process of succeeding." By making this small but powerful shift in perspective, you will begin to see obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities to grow stronger. Emotional resilience, mastering the inner storm. Resilience is not just about mental toughness, it is also about emotional strength. When we face adversity, our emotions often become our greatest challenge. Frustration, fear, self-doubt, and anxiety can cloud our judgment, making it difficult to take productive action. Learning to regulate our emotions in the face of difficulty is one of the most important aspects of resilience. Emotional resilience does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending that challenges do not affect us. It means developing the ability to acknowledge our emotions without letting them control our actions. This requires cultivating self-awareness, the ability to recognize when emotions are influencing our decisions, and emotional intelligence, the skill of managing those emotions effectively. One of the most effective ways to build emotional resilience is through mindfulness and self-reflection. Mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in the moment without judgment, helps us develop a sense of detachment from our emotions. Instead of being overwhelmed by fear or frustration, we learn to observe these feelings with curiosity, understanding that they are temporary states rather than permanent truths. This allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Another powerful technique is cognitive reframing, the practice of shifting our interpretation of events. When we encounter a difficult situation, our automatic response is often negative. "This is terrible. I can't handle this." But by consciously choosing a different perspective, we can change our experience of adversity. "This is difficult, but I have overcome challenges before. This is an opportunity to grow." Over time, this habit of reframing builds an internal strength that allows us to navigate even the toughest situations with confidence and composure. Building mental fortitude, training for life's challenges. Just as the body becomes stronger through physical training, the mind becomes more resilient through intentional practice. Mental toughness is not something we are born with. It is something we develop by consistently challenging ourselves. This means deliberately placing ourselves in situations that require resilience rather than avoiding discomfort. One of the best ways to train resilience is through voluntary hardship. This involves intentionally engaging in difficult activities that push us beyond our comfort zones. Examples include physical challenges like endurance sports, learning a new skill that requires patience and persistence, or taking on responsibilities that force us to grow. By exposing ourselves to controlled difficulty, we teach our brains that struggle is not something to fear. It is something we can handle. Over time, this builds a deep inner confidence that allows us to face real-life challenges with greater ease. Another key aspect of mental fortitude is developing a strong why. When we have a powerful reason behind our actions, a purpose that drives us, we are far less likely to be discouraged by temporary setbacks. Think about some of the most resilient people in history: leaders, activists, visionaries. What allowed them to persevere through hardship was not just their skills, but their unshakable sense of purpose. When your purpose is bigger than your obstacles, nothing can break you. The path to unshakable resilience. Resilience is not about avoiding failure, nor is it about suppressing emotions or pretending that life is easy. It is about developing the mindset, emotional strength, and mental fortitude to navigate challenges with confidence and determination. It is the ability to turn setbacks into stepping stones, pain into power, and adversity into advantage. By shifting the way we view failure, strengthening our emotional resilience, and training our minds through deliberate challenges, we create an unshakable foundation that allows us to face anything life throws our way. This is not just a skill for achieving success. It is a skill for living a fulfilling and meaningful life. Chapter 14. The Legacy of Mastery. Influencing, inspiring, and leaving an impact. The power of true mastery beyond personal success. Mastery is often thought of as a personal journey, an internal conquest of the mind, emotions, body, and spirit. It is the discipline to shape oneself into a higher version, the resilience to overcome obstacles, and the intelligence to navigate life with purpose and intention. But true mastery does not stop with the self. The ultimate level of mastery is not just about controlling your own mind and emotions. It is about influencing, inspiring, and elevating others. It is about leaving behind something greater than yourself. Many people spend their lives in pursuit of personal achievement, believing that happiness and fulfillment lie in individual success. They work tirelessly to accumulate wealth, knowledge, or status, only to find that something still feels missing. That missing element is impact. Human beings are wired for connection, for meaning, for contribution. No matter how much success you attain, if it does not extend beyond yourself, if it does not enrich the lives of others, it will feel hollow. The highest form of fulfillment comes not from what we achieve, but from what we give, from the influence we have on the world around us. Mastery, therefore, is not complete until it transcends the self. It is not just about being the best version of yourself. It is about using that version of yourself to uplift those around you. The greatest minds, the most legendary leaders, the most admired figures in history did not simply master their own lives. They changed the world in some way, big or small. This final step is the true test of mastery. Can you take what you have learned and use it to create a lasting impact? The science of influence, shaping the world around you. Influence is not about manipulation. It is not about forcing others to see things your way or bending them to your will. True influence is about inspiring change by embodying the principles you wish to spread. People are not influenced by words alone. They are influenced by energy, by conviction, by consistency. At its core, influence is a psychological and emotional connection. Research in neuroscience shows that humans are wired to mirror the emotions and behaviors of those around them. This is why we are drawn to confident, disciplined, and purpose-driven individuals. Their presence alone influences us, shaping our beliefs and actions without a single word. If you want to inspire change in others, the first step is to become the embodiment of what you wish to teach. For example, if you want to inspire discipline in those around you, your words will have little impact if your actions do not align. However, if you consistently demonstrate discipline through your habits, your work ethic, your ability to persevere, people will naturally begin to adopt similar behaviors. If you want to inspire positivity, your energy must reflect that positivity in every interaction. Influence is not about telling people what to do. It is about showing them what is possible by living as an example. Additionally, one of the most powerful ways to influence others is through authenticity and vulnerability. People are not inspired by perfection. They are inspired by realness. They are drawn to those who have faced struggles and emerged stronger, those who are unafraid to share their failures as well as their successes. When you embrace your journey, the victories, the losses, the lessons, you create a connection with others that is far more powerful than any motivational speech. True influence comes from transparency, from the courage to be seen as you are. Mentorship and leadership, the responsibility of mastery. Once you have reached a level of mastery in any area of life, whether it be mental discipline, emotional intelligence, physical well-being, or any specialized skill, you carry a responsibility. That responsibility is to pass on what you have learned, to guide others on their journey. Knowledge and wisdom are not meant to be hoarded. They are meant to be shared, expanded upon, and used to elevate those who come after us. Mentorship does not mean having all the answers. It does not mean positioning yourself as superior to others. Rather, it means offering guidance where you can, creating opportunities for growth, and helping others navigate challenges with the insights you have gained. Some of the greatest transformations in history have occurred because one person took the time to invest in another. The teacher who believed in a struggling student, the leader who gave an opportunity to someone overlooked, the mentor who helped another see their own potential. These small acts of guidance ripple out in ways that cannot be measured. Leadership, in its purest form, is not about control. It is about service. The most effective leaders are those who put the needs of others before their own, who lead not from a place of ego, but from a place of purpose. Whether you are leading a team, a business, a family, or a community, the principles of true leadership remain the same: integrity, vision, and the ability to inspire through action. If you aspire to lead, ask yourself, how can I add value to the lives of those around me? When you make it your mission to lift others up, leadership comes naturally. Creating a lasting legacy, the measure of a life. Well-lived legacy is not about fame or recognition. It is not about how many people know your name or how much material success you accumulate. Legacy is about impact, the mark you leave on the world, the lives you touch, the influence that continues even after you are gone. A powerful way to think about legacy is to ask yourself, if I were to disappear tomorrow, what would remain? What lessons, values, or contributions would continue to exist because of your presence? Would the world in some small way be better because of you? Legacy is built not in grand gestures, but in everyday actions. The kindness you show, the knowledge you share, the moments of encouragement, support, and inspiration that shape the paths of those around you. Legacy is not something you leave behind. It is something you build every single day through the way you live. The Master's final lesson: the journey never ends. Perhaps the most profound realization of all is that true mastery has no final destination. There is no point at which you have arrived, no moment where you have learned all there is to learn. Mastery is an infinite journey, one of continuous growth, adaptation, and evolution. To be a master is to be forever a student, always open to new knowledge, always seeking to refine and expand your understanding. This is why those who achieve true greatness never stop learning. The most brilliant minds continue to explore, to question, to push boundaries. The most skilled individuals never allow themselves to stagnate, always searching for new challenges, new ways to refine their craft. The journey of mastery is a lifelong pursuit, one that does not end with achievement, but continues through curiosity, passion, and the relentless pursuit of growth. And so, as we reach the final chapter of this book, know this: mastery is not an endpoint. It is a way of life. It is a commitment to excellence, a dedication to continuous self-improvement, and a promise to use what you have learned to elevate the world around you. You now hold the tools, the mental strength, the emotional resilience, the discipline, the awareness, to take control of your life in a way that few ever do. But the question remains, what will you do with this power? Because at the end of the day, true mastery is not about what you know. It is about who you become and how you use that transformation to shape the world.